I'm a very sick person. And because I am, I'm inviting you to relive that sickness with me. I'd like you to relive when I became sick. Then I'd like you to relive when I got worse. And then what I tried to do about it. And maybe from that, we could figure out some theology, how it applies to ecology. But one thing about theology, the word is used very loosely. As far as the Orthodox Church is concerned, officially there are only 3 theologians, and there have only been 3 theologians, namely St. John, the theologian, St. Gregory, the theologian, and St. Simeon, the new theologian. Everyone else, even those people like me who went to a school of theology, even the patriarch, even the metropolitans, even the archbishops, even the bishops, all the archimandrites, all the priests, all the deacons are not theologians. Because theologian is a very, very special word within the Orthodox Church. To be a true theologian in the Orthodox Church, you must, as we say, go to the desert. St. Anthony, whose memory we celebrate on January the 17th every year, who founded Orthodox monasticism, did so for a very simple reason. He had to leave where all the confusion was occurring. And that confusion was occurring in the major cities. That confusion was occurring among those who claimed to be theologians. And he went to the desert to find, in clarity of mind and spirit, what he did not find from where he left. Now, I'm going to ask your forgiveness as we together relive my sickness, when at certain points I may use language that may not be appropriate. But I'm going to do so to be truthful. It's going to be truth, not the raw truth, because truth does not come either cooked or raw. Truth is truth. So then I take you back to the year 1980, I guess it should have been 88. 88 to 89. At that time, I had stopped the PhD at the University of Michigan because I thought I wanted to go to theology school. So I did, but I had no money, so I had to work. I couldn't work during the day, so I worked at night. In the United States, at least, it's called the graveyard shift. 11 p.m. to 7 in the morning. And I worked at a psychiatric hospital in an intensive treatment unit, which was treating whom? The criminally, mentally insane. And my job was to tend to them. So one night, it must have been 2 in the morning, I was sitting there doing what we call progress notes. And for those of you who are not aware of progress notes, every hour or 2 hours, you look at what's going on in the ward, and you write down observations. 2:30, quiet. I hear a voice. Hey, you. I didn't expect it. Hey. I turn around here, to this side. It was one of the residents. Okay. They live there. He got up. He came to me. I said, what's your problem? I'm hungry. I said, you had dinner. I'm still hungry, he says. So I asked him if he would kindly go back to bed. He does. I continue my progress notes. About 10 minutes or so later, I hear some noise again. Hey, you. I said, oh no. I said to myself, here we go again. He says, I want dessert. I said, look, I was getting angry because I had an examination the following day. This was a Sunday night. Monday I'm having an examination. I forget what it was. I said, please do not bother me. I'm going to have to call the warden. Go back to your room. I said, I want dessert. No, go back to your room. Crossed myself. I said, we got rid of the guy. About 3:15, maybe, I hear this. Hello? I couldn't believe it. Hi there. I turn around. He looks at me. He has a plate in his hands. Like this. You want some? And I look, and I almost have a heart attack on the spot. What does he do? What did he do? He had gone to the bathroom. He had defecated. He took what he did, made small squares, and put it on a plate. Put them on a plate. And he says, you want a brownie? I called the warden, took him away, and I said, that's all I need. This is the psychiatric hospital. But before he left, he said, it's my crap. I can do what I want with it. I said, get him out of here. Oh, thank God. I said, thank God I'm at a seminary. So 7 o'clock rolls around. I had to drive to the seminary. I was late. I go in the lot. I get out of the car. I see the dean. He looks at me and says, you're late. He said, I know. He says, the bishop wants to see you. I said, which bishop? He says, our new president. I said, what, new president? Yeah. I said, okay, I'll make an appointment to see him. I've never seen the bishop before. He says, the appointment was made. I said, when? For 1 o'clock today. I said, I have an exam. He says, we got you out of it. So here we go. The president of the seminary was the bishop. Now the bishop, I have to go see him. But you see, I had to go see him because I was also elected class president. I had to go see him. I didn't know. He doesn't know me. 1 o'clock rolls around. I'm led to the door. It's a little bit open like this. I didn't know how to behave. So I go and I'm like this. And I say in Greek, your grace, so I can be allowed to go in. He wouldn't come. I'm not going to go in to the bishop. I mean, I'm just a student. I said, your grace. He comes over. He opens up the door. He goes like this. I said, oh my, that's a nice hello. He said, sit down. Okay. Without asking me who I was, without me saying hello, he says, look, you tell them, students, that this place is not going to be a bordello any longer. And I got upset. I was up all night. I missed my exam. I'm talking to the bishop. I said, Your Grace, excuse me, but it's not what you say it is. He said, it's my school, I can do what I want with it. Does that sound familiar? I had gotten that at 3 in the morning in a psychiatric hospital. I got that at 1 in the afternoon in a seminary. Keeping that in mind, the beginning of my sickness, I take you to approximately this time in the year 1996. Excuse me, 1993, well, 3, because 6 we came here to Greece. I had to do a baptism. I had to do my first baptism. I'd done many, many funerals. There was someone dying every month in my parish from the time I got there. I thought it was me. But then I realized these are old people. Old people die. So it was my first baptism. However, right after liturgy, I couldn't go home. It was too far away from us. So I said to my wife, I said, well, let's go to a restaurant, eat, then I'll be ready. I'll be nearby. I'll be ready for the baptism. We have a chain there in the United States called Denny's. You can get anything you want, anytime you want, for cheap, or at least to be cheap. We go, we eat, it's time to leave. You get the bill. All this time, though, the waitress was looking at me. I wasn't dressed like this because in the United States, we have a suit and a collar, a black shirt. Get the bill. I go to pay it. I tell my wife, would you go to the car and please open the door, roll down the windows. It was hot. It's Florida. But I forgot. I hadn't left her a tip. So I turn around, walk over the table. She's coming to me because she was looking at me while I was almost leaving without giving her a tip. And I thought, oh, she must be mad. I didn't give her a tip. I put the tip on the table, and she goes like this. She goes, is that a costume, or are you for real? You see, it was Halloween weekend, and in the United States we have a holiday where you get dressed up in costumes. And I said, and then she walked away. I said, wait, a costume? I forgot what is she talking about? Then I realized something. Is this a costume? Or am I for real? Are we for real? Or do we wear costumes? And that bothered me. It bothered me, as a matter of fact, from 1993 until the big year, 1998. Real costume. She's questioning my credibility. She's questioning who I am. I was not going to allow that to happen. No way, no way. Never again, I said. And that was kind of like this for about 4 years. 1998, I'm in Athens. I'm teaching university. I get a call from the vice president of academic affairs at my university. He said, look, Father, come on in. We need a meeting. I said, okay. I wonder what I did now. I go in. There is the vice president of academic affairs, the dean, and me. I said, uh-oh. Something's going to happen. I was like, looks at me. He shows an envelope in my hand, and he goes, congratulations. What do I do now? I open up the envelope. I read it. I receive tenure. I get tenure after many years working as a professor. And I was told back in the mid-70s, if you ever get it, say thank you, smile, and leave quickly. So they won't take it away from you. And I get up to leave. He says, wait, we're not finished yet. I said, not finished yet. Yeah, the president from the United States called, and he talked with the dean there, and he would like you to teach in the MBA program. I had never taught a graduate student. Yeah, we'd like you to teach ethical values in business. I said, me? Yeah, you're a priest. I said, well, I said, okay, you start Wednesday. I said, The day comes. In the meantime, I'm remembering what the waitress had said. I said, I'm not going to question my credibility this time. No way. I'm going to be prepared. But I had a problem. Executive MBA program, I have these students who are going to be ready to go into executive positions. Managers in banks, managers in hospitals. You name it. From Greece, Cyprus, Russia, Switzerland, everywhere. Now, how should I dress? I don't have a tie. I haven't had a tie in 20 years. Should I dress in pants and a shirt, or should I dress like this? Because here we dress like this. And I was belaboring this. This was on a Friday. I had until a Wednesday. And I said, no, I am not going to question the credibility. I will dress as a priest. No way. I'm going to go like this. Wednesday, 7 o'clock. I waited right till 7 because I was kind of shaking. I go in the room, walk in the room, and there was silence. They look at me like, what's this? And someone said, hey, Father, this isn't religion, it's business. And I said to him, what's business? This is why he gave me a definition. Well, business is the production and distribution of goods and services in exchange for profit or credit. But what he didn't know was he got that from a book written by one of my professors when I was studying under him. So I repeated it back to him and told him the page. He goes, oh. I said, oh, this is going to be fun. I'm not going to let my credibility get worn down. No way. We started. Typical stuff you talk about in that kind of a course. At the end of the course, I began speaking about the prophets. About Isaiah, the prophet of the Old Testament. I talked about Hosea instead of that, and then Ezekiel. And people were taking notes, and I was so happy. My credibility is really good. And I was going, oh boy, yeah, right. And I was now this. So it was really important. So I said, okay, let me ask them. Would someone please tell me who their two favorite prophets are? And someone raised his hand in the back. He said, yeah, Gross and Net. I hadn't connected. I did not communicate. Forget the credibility. A professor of communication did not communicate. I blew it. I blew it in the restaurant. I blew it there. My sickness is getting worse. Then, it gets very, very bad just about a month ago, while I was thinking about this very conference. On August the 19th specifically, after I had received an email from Dr. Andrianos, I said, well, I better get it together. We have about a month to go. What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. My wife said, okay, I want to go to the mall. She says to me, you do the shopping. I go for the shopping. There are 3 supermarkets near where we usually go for shopping. I wanted to check the prices. I wanted to save some money. I was so tired. I walked in the supermarket. Here it's called, the one I went to, Sklavonitis. Good stuff, good prices. I was tired. It was hot. I sat down on a bench in the middle of the store, which happily is right next to my favorite spot of the store where they give free samples. And the lady was there giving what I think was a small piece of sausage. Plus I was hungry, but I couldn't move. So I said, I better rest before I go over there. And after about 5 minutes, I turned to go, and suddenly I see a couple coming this way to the table, and a couple with a child meeting them. I said, well, I better wait. But I wanted to see what was going on. So I was looking that way, but not so they could see I was looking. But when I looked at one point, I saw the one woman on this side, reach down to the child and go something like, and the child went, and everyone laughed. After the child went, everyone laughed. And the child's face from about 20 meters went like this. And the child left and came down the aisle toward me to go past me. Stops in front of me. He looks at me. Then he goes by me. He's going to go to the cookies probably over there. The cookies are there in that store. But then suddenly he comes back and he says, "You a priest?" You go, "Yeah." You go, "Oh, I wasn't wearing this." He leaves. I said, "Okay. I wonder what happened down there." Child comes back and sits further down the bench from me. And his face like this, still. He looks at me and he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm sitting here." He asked, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm tired." "Why are you tired?" And I told him, "Well, I have to plan a conference because I'm going to be speaking at a conference." And he says, "What's a conference?" I told him, "Well, this is where people discuss things." He said, "Oh, where is it?" He asked me. I said, "It's in Crete." Is it always in Crete? I said, "No." "Oh." And I said, "Well," he asked me, "What are you going to talk about?" And I said, "Oh, I forgot he was 7, 8 years old. Ecological, theology, and environmental ethics." That's what I said. He says, "What's that?" And I look at him and I say, "Oh, we talk about keeping the water and forest clean and nice." So then I was getting a little bit ticked off because I was tired too, but he had been hurt. And I asked him, "Well, how do you think we should keep everything nice and clean?" He looks at me and says, "Don't dirty it." Okay, that makes some sense. And I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" He says, "Well, nothing." I said, "What do you mean nothing?" "I saw what happened over there." He says, "Well, my mom's friend asked me a question," and I said, "Yeah?" And they laughed at me. "Well, what did they ask?" "Well, they asked me what I want to do when I grow up." "Yeah? Well, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And he says, "I don't want to grow up." I said, "What? You don't want to grow up? What do you mean you don't want to grow up? What do you mean?" And he stops me because he says, "Look, do you like the world as it is? I didn't expect it." And before I could answer, he says, "Look, it's not 7-year-olds that run it, it's adults." And I was like this. I don't remember how I was. I think I was like this. And he looks at me. And he went that way, and he went like this. And he left. I didn't answer him. I got sicker. There was no conviction. Where was my conviction? But then I thought, well, you can't have conviction unless you communicate, unless you have communication. You can't have communication unless you have credibility. But what if you don't have credibility? What affects that? Then I thought, oh, come on, this little boy has nothing to do with ecology and everything. But then I came upon something that I'd like to share with you now. and I'm not going to show the video. Just listen to the audio, if you would.
Hello, I'm Severin Suzuki, speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. Vanessa Suddy, Morgan Geisler, Michelle Quigg, and me. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come 5,000 miles to tell you adults you must change your ways. Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I am here to speak for all generations to come. I am here to speak on behalf of the starving children around the world whose cries go unheard. I am here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go. I am afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone. I am afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it. I used to go fishing in Vancouver, my home, with my dad, until just a few years ago we found the fish full of cancers. And now we hear of animals and plants going extinct, every day vanishing forever. In my life, I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see. Did you have to worry of these things when you were my age? All this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions. I'm only a child, and I don't have all the solutions. But I want you to realize, neither do you. You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it. Here, you may be delegates of your government, business people, organizers, reporters, or politicians, but really, your mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, and all of you are someone's child. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all part of a family, 5 billion strong. In fact, 30 million species strong. And borders and governments will never change that. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all in this together and should act as one single world towards one single goal. In my anger, I am not blind, and in my fear, I am not afraid of telling the world how I feel. In my country, we make so much waste. We buy and throw away, buy and throw away, buy and throw away, and yet northern countries will not share with the needy. Even when we have more than enough, we are afraid to share. We are afraid to let go of some of our wealth. In Canada, we live the privileged life, with plenty of food, water, and shelter. We have watches, bicycles, computers, and television sets. The list could go on for 2 days. 2 days ago, here in Brazil, we were shocked when we spent time with some children living on the streets. This is what one child told us. I wish I was rich. And if I were, I would give all the street children food, clothes, medicines, shelter, and love and affection. If a child on the streets who has nothing is willing to share, why are we who have everything still so greedy? I can't stop thinking that these are children my own age, that it makes a tremendous difference where you are born. That I could be one of those children living in the favelas of Rio. I could be a child starving in Somalia, or a victim of war in the Middle East. or a beggar in India. I am only a child, yet I know if all the money spent on war was spent on finding environmental answers, ending poverty, and finding treaties, what a wonderful place this earth would be. At school, even in kindergarten, you teach us how to behave in the world. You teach us to not to fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our mess, not to hurt other creatures, to share, not be greedy. Then why do you go out and do the things you tell us not to do? Do not forget why you are attending these conferences, who you're doing this for. We are your own children. You are deciding what kind of world you're growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, and we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. Are we even on your list of priorities? My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
Yes, the little boy told me he didn't want to grow up. What you heard was from 1992. What you'll hear now, very, very briefly, is the same young lady 20 years later, a year ago.
Years ago, I was here. I was a 12-year-old. I was fighting for my future. And now I've joined the world and returning to Rio de Janeiro once again, but this time to fight for my children's future. What has happened in 20 years? Last week, in the scientific journal Nature, scientists told us that we may be forcing a state shift in our planet's biosphere. We are putting such pressure on the Earth's ecosystems that we may be pushing the natural balance to a tipping point, like what was seen at the end of the last ice age 12,000 years ago. But this time, the transition will be human-caused, and we will be orders of magnitude faster than the 1,000-year transition that happened last time. The scientists suggest that this transition phase and the new state will not be comfortable for human beings. 20 years after Rio, we have not come close to achieving the sustainable world we knew we needed back then.
20 years later. So I was very, very sick that night. As a matter of fact, when I went home, I began to cry. I began to cry as a priest. Because my sickness caused that child to not want to grow up. So sometime in the early evening, I told my wife, well, I'd like to go get an ice cream. She says, well, we have ice cream. No, I just want to get one on a stick. I don't want the one you get. And I walked out. And I took something with me as a result of my shopping that day and having an interaction with that child. see if I can get this to work. Look, which one is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Just so you know, this is my bank statement. And I show it to you because if you can see it, I was there that date. And I spent $42.79 at Scaletta. I'm not making this up. Right there. I was there that day, and that happened to me. And I'm still crying in here. So I went out. I looked at the calendar before I went out to see, because I always read the gospel of the day, every day, before I go to bed. I forgot what it was. So I go to the calendar, the 19th of August. There's a blow-up. The gospel is the second line, Matthew 18, 1 to 11. I didn't know. I can't know all the gospels. And this is what it was. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And calling to him a child, he put him in the midst of them and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened round his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world for temptations to sin, for it is necessary that temptations come. But woe to the man by whom the temptation comes. And if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or lame than with 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than with 2 eyes to be thrown into the Gehenna fire. See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that in heaven their angels always behold the face of my Father who is in heaven. For the Son of Man came to save the lost. And when I read that, I knew someone was trying to tell me something. So, to save the lost, my sickness that you've relived with me had symptoms. If the problem is a symptom, you don't solve a symptom. You treat it. The Orthodox Church does not believe that we have environmental problems. Because if, for example, it did, Patriarch Bartholomew on September 1st would not have written what he wrote. He didn't refer to problems. He refers to arrogance. Arrogance. Because if the environment is being destroyed, it's because we are not thinking properly. And if we're not thinking properly, it's because we are not spiritually centered properly. We don't have a problem with the environment. We are the problem. We are the problem. And so, in an attempt to address my sickness, and sickness generally with respect to this, I started with this line here. Let's call that line X. theolex there. Let's call this line y. Let's make the x-axis, now I'm becoming the social scientist that I am. I'm not a hard scientist. So you're not scared of me. Right, Rosemary? I'm a soft scientist. As human beings, we have something very, very different than other living creatures, and that is the ability to conceptualize. No other creature that has been created by God can conceptualize, but we do. And as a result of conceptualizing, we have something called focus. And that focus is a continuum. We focus on ourselves or on someone else at various points along the continuum. But as conceptualizing beings, we also have bias. We're inclined one way or the other. That one way being substance, what something is, or style, how it is. That's all you got, ladies and gentlemen, because that's just simply how it is. That's how God made it. Okay? Now you might think that because I'm going to show you some points now in this field of the graph, you might think that I'm there. You might think that. Because people with PhDs who've taught for 37 years may have some of this. Okay? Scholar. Or you may think I'm this, which is down there. Clergy. I'm a priest. Okay? I marry people, I baptize people. But no. My own research about me personally makes me not both, but this. A thespian. A thespian is someone who is a theatrical person, such as these priests who talk at conferences, wave their hands, those kind of guys. You know? But there's a reason why I don't come across as a scholar or as a clergyman, which has to do with how I grew up, which is for a totally different conference, I can assure you. But don't be alarmed because I'm this, but everyone is something. And in my longitudinal research over the past 5 years, I found that you have 13 types of illnesses. And I have good news for you. You got one of them. But that's okay. That's okay. Because as I'm trying to struggle with my sickness, so too are you, which is why we are all here. Any one of these types of people will have a different take on the environment. And as we baptize children in the Greek Orthodox Church, and we put olive oil on them before we dunk them in the water, it's not because we're going to cut them up in a Greek salad. We don't do that in the Greek Orthodox Church. It's not suntan oil. We put oil on for the same reasons that in ancient Greece the wrestlers put olive oil on themselves, so they can slip away from the devil. And these kinds of characteristics are what throw us off from focusing on what we are to focus on. And it's the biosphere. Not the biosphere, the bifosphere. Bifosphere. Ever heard of a bifosphere? You haven't, because I just made it up. 4 years ago. Bithosphere, from the bi of bias and the pho of focus. Everyone has a bipho. Everyone is focused and biased in a certain way, and is therefore within the bithosphere, and either is or is not more or less environmental. Biphometry is how we measure this. Biphometry. We're biased and focusing it. And so if you go to the site of my institute, you'll note that Duke Medicine is there. Because thanks to this academy and Emanuela, Luca, thank you, God bless you, because 5 years ago I came to this conference and you honored me with enabling me to present my research to you first here. 10 days later, I was able to go to Duke University, to the Center for the Study of Aging and Human Development at Duke Medicine, and become one, as unworthy as I am, of the 50 people in the world who are trying to do something to change the way people act toward the environment. Because it all starts from within. The kingdom of God, my friends, is within you. That's what Jesus said. It's not me who said that. And what that is something that's well known to the Orthodox. It's the science of spiritual medicine. The science of spiritual medicine. The medicine that takes a symptom and treats it for whatever the endeavor is, including environmental endeavors. Because it is based on one of our great canons from a particular ecumenical council. And this is being said about me, a priest, speaking to you now. It behooves those who have received from God the power to loose and to bind, to consider the quality of the sin. We're all sinners. And the readiness of the sinner for conversion, and to apply medicine suitable for the disease. For the disease of sin is not simple. Now listen to this, everybody who's at this conference. But various and multiform. And it germinates, in other words, it gives rise to, it gives growth to, many mischievous offshoots, from which much evil is diffused. And it proceeds further until it is checked by the power of the physician. And if you don't consider that during the time I've spoken, 38,000 liters of radioactive water has gone into the ocean from Fukushima, if that's not evil, I don't know what is. If you don't consider Tony Hayward, the chairman of BP, saying after the BP spill, that's wrecked up my day. Oh, excuse me, Tony Hayward, duh. How about the 400,000 people who had their lives wrecked up? I know, my brother-in-law's life is affected by that. It's not quite that simple. So I remember when that child came to me, of course he doesn't want to grow up. Would you want to grow up when adults do these things? I wouldn't, but unfortunately I have. So when Gus sent me an email and I saw the call for papers, I saw underneath the call the byline. Theology needs to be involved in finding solutions to ecological problems. That is what is currently being used. But I think, on behalf of the church, I propose that ecology needs to be involved in taking the medication that theology prescribes to treat the symptom. Because again, we don't have a problem. We are the problem.